was an ordinary morning in the charming village of Willowbrook. The air was crisp, and the streets were alive with the sounds of everyday life. Children laughing, shopkeepers chatting, and the steady tick-tock of the great clock tower in the village square. The clock had been there for as long as anyone could remember, marking time for the villagers. Minnie S. loved the clock. Every morning, she would stop beneath its towering frame on her way to school, just to hear its comforting chimes. "It's like a heartbeat for the village," her father often said. But one day, something unexpected happened. Minnie S. was skipping through the square when she noticed something unusual. The familiar tick-tock of the clock was missing. She looked up to see the hands frozen at 7:15. A small crowd had already gathered, whispering in confusion. "What happened to it?" asked Mr. Fletcher, the baker. "Without the clock, how will we know when it's time to bake bread?" Minnie S. frowned. "Maybe it just needs a break," she suggested with a smile. The villagers chuckled, but as the hours passed and the clock remained still, an odd thing began to happen. The usual hustle and bustle of the village slowed down. Without the clock's steady rhythm, people weren't rushing to keep track of time. At first, it felt strange. Minnie S. noticed that the bakery, which normally opened at the same time every morning, stayed closed longer. When it finally opened, Mr. Fletcher was laughing with his son as they kneaded dough together. Down the street, Mrs. Harper, who always hurried to finish her knitting orders, was sitting outside her shop, enjoying a cup of tea with her neighbor. Children who usually rushed off to school stayed a little longer to play hopscotch in the square. Minnie S. found herself wandering through the village, marveling at how different everything felt. People were smiling more, talking to one another, and taking the time to enjoy small, beautiful moments. Later that day, she stopped by her grandmother's cottage. "Grandma, why do you think the clock stopped?" she asked. Her grandmother smiled, setting down her knitting. "Maybe it's reminding us of something important," she said. "Sometimes we're so busy chasing time that we forget to live in the moment." The next morning, the clock was still broken. Minnie S. decided to visit her friend Leo, who loved fixing things. They climbed up to the top of the tower, where they found gears and springs in disarray. "This is going to take some time," Leo said, scratching his head. "Maybe that's okay," Minnie S. replied thoughtfully. For the next few days, life in Willowbrook continued without the clock. The villagers began to enjoy their newfound freedom. Families lingered over meals, neighbors helped each other with chores, and friends spent long afternoons by the river, sharing stories and laughter. Finally, after a week, Leo fixed the clock. When its chimes rang out again, the villagers cheered. But something had changed. From that day on, the people of Willowbrook lived at a slower pace. They still loved their clock and its familiar rhythm, but they had learned an important lesson. Life isn't just about chasing time. It's about savoring the moments that make it special. As for Minnie S., she still stopped by the clock every morning. But now, she didn't just listen for its chimes. She looked around at the smiling faces, the laughter of children, and the beauty of her village. And she smiled, knowing she had helped remind everyone of the magic of simply being present.